Welcome to the Tea Girls Pod, everybody. Why should you watch us? We're moderate trans women. We have a lot of opinions on the issues of the day. We're very common sense. We never stick to one side, and we think that we're funny. So we're excited that you're here watching with us. My name is Nalea. I am a TikToker. I am 31 years old, and I live in Phoenix, Arizona. And I just lied. I'm actually 32. So I'm also extremely smart. This is my co-host, Dani. Dani, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Dani, 32-year-old trans woman from Boston, Massachusetts. Let's see, some things about me. I love the gym. Leg days are my favorite. Also very fond of martinis. And Nalea, this past week was my first time getting canceled.
Oh, welcome to the club, girl. Tell me more about
Thank
that.
you. My cherry finally got popped, so that was good. Got it out of the way nice and early. That was only our second podcast. So here's the backstory. You and I put a few clips out from our second episode. The clips that got the trans community most upset, we made one about periods and how trans women cannot get periods. That was somehow a controversial opinion. We made one about the Planet Fitness locker room. And then we made one about how trans women are not biological women. Again, very controversial opinion. So those are the three that got the crowd most riled up. So yeah, I know you being a TikToker, this is definitely not your first rodeo.
Yeah, I've gotten in trouble a lot for the things that I say. Some of the trouble is correct, some of the trouble is not correct. But here's the deal. That conversation was like the Avengers, and it was giving bricks versus dolls. I mean, I'm just going to be honest. It was the Avengers and, Thanos. They were acting like we were being Thanos for saying things that are common sense. You guys, we should be able to have conversations and not let it be this contentious. Like, it's really not that serious. I think that, if the things that we say make people uncomfortable, it should be taken with tough love, with humor, with a little bit of compassion. But I'm down and ready to fight all day. Nothing I'm saying is intended to hurt the community, but ultimately, we are responsible for holding each other accountable and making each other better. So, come with it and let's have a discussion, and let's not be afraid to discuss things with a little bit of humor and a little bit of shade. That's who we are as trans women in the first place.
I equate the trans community to America. So it is really fucked up, very divisive, but I would not want to be anywhere else at this stage in life. Like, I love both, so that's how I think is the best analogy for it. But I also wanted to mention some of my favorite insults that we received.
Okay.
Being transphobic and misogynistic, I mean, come on with better material. But one that I thought was really good, turncoats. Someone called you a QAnon fuck, so I thought that one was good.
Where? Was that on Threads?
It was, oh my god, Nalia, we hit the trifecta. This was on Threads, Reddit, and the comments on Instagram.
QAnon? Me?
Yeah, you.
Okay.
You are a conservative, well-off trans woman who went out of country, spent $20K on FFS.
Yes, because all the rich trans women get their FFS in Mexico.
Yes. What else? Oh, there was one girl who says that this is commitment. I gotta give her this. Whenever she sees your videos, she just reports them.
Okay. Guys, come on, grow up. It's all fun and games, like, even if people are being difficult or haters, it's all love over here. I want everybody to know both me and Dani dedicate our pages to trans advocacy. Like my entire page, the one issue that I will stand 10 toes down on is everybody should have access to cheap gender affirming care, whether it's parents or, it's people who are in their 20s, 30s, or 40s. I stand on that. But there are just some issues that, we lose moderates when we get a little crazy about. So, love you guys.
That needs to be the number one issue moving forward. It shouldn't be about arguing over periods, manly looking trans women who are like 2 weeks on hormones going into the women's locker room. It needs to be making sure that every trans person has access to gender affirming care. That needs to be the number one issue.
And we can walk and chew gum at the same time. Like we can fight for bathroom bills. We can fight for gender affirming care. We can fight for dignity and people not being able to bully us on the internet. We can have all of those things, but then also turn around and say, hey, transgender women, maybe attempt to look like a female when you go to the bathroom. Hey, transgender women, maybe don't call everybody a TERF the minute that they disagree with you on something. Hey, transgender women, maybe there is a difference between transgender and non-binary, and everybody is valid, but not everybody is the same. Like we can do all of those things at the same time, and I'm sick of pretending like we can't. Come on now.
Yeah, I agree. So it's good that we're getting our voices out there, and I'm sure that won't be the last time that we get canceled because we will be continuing to speak our minds. So that's that. But since we were getting so much shade this past week, want to spread a little bit of goodwill and bring some positivity into the room. So with it being Transgender Day of Visibility on Sunday, we thought it would be a good idea to just honor two trans women. I will pick one, Nalea will pick one that we think are doing outstanding things for the trans community. And they are lesser known. We're not talking Hunter Schafer or Carmen, just your average trans girl who's doing a fantastic job walking this world. So, Nalia, I'll let you go first on this one.
Okay, so a trans woman that I really love. I think she does a lot of advocacy. I think that she's 10 toes down for the trans community. And I just think she's beautiful. I follow her. Her name is Plastic Martyr. You can find her on Instagram and TikTok. And a lot of her videos are educational in nature, very similar to mine. But she also goes out of her way to take down a transphobe, two, three, or four every single day. The videos are always hilarious and they're always trying to come for her looks. But baby, what is there to come for, really? She's also just like a very nice person. And like we've always had really pleasant DMs back and forth. And I just think she's a good example to the community. So I'm all about her. Shout out to you, Plastic Martyr.
So, the woman that I am nominating is my friend Amara. She lives in the UK, uh, fellow gym girly. And what I love about Amara is how genuine she is and how much perseverance she has. She has gone through a ton that I think that a lot of people would not survive. And she has done it with a tremendous amount of grace. And she is an advocate at work in educating people about trans issues. And she's just an all around awesome person. So that's who I am nominating.
And she comments under our videos a lot and every comment hits. So I'm super into her.
We love her. We love Amara. We love Plastic Martyr. So, uh, thank you for being outstanding members of our community.
Yay.
So, Nalia, since it was Transgender Day of Visibility this past Sunday, uh, did you know that it coincided with Easter Sunday?
I found out the hard way because I would never pay attention to Easter if I had the choice. Now I don't have the choice because when I go to Kroger, I see demented yellow bunnies with eggs coming out of their ass. When I go to Target, I see bunnies with the eggs. When I go to Whole Foods, I see the bunnies. So I couldn't have missed Easter if I had tried. Okay,
Okay, so
go ahead.
I wanted to give you a little stat that I found interesting. So, TDOV was started in 2009, so it has been celebrated on every March 31st for the past 15 years. Now, Easter, this is a fun one. This is a fun trivia question. Since,
Okay.
since 1900, how many times has Easter fallen on March 31st?
Oh God, that's a great question. I want to say like 2 times,
7.
7 times. Okay.
So half of TDOV. And the theocratic fascists were up in arms about this. Um, so, particularly Matt Walsh was upset about this. And Joe Biden giving a proclamation for Transgender Day of Visibility. He was upset that Joe did that because, according to him, you cannot be a Christian and trans simultaneously.
Okay. I thought Jesus died for our sins.
That's what I thought too. So I wanted to play you a clip from his show and we can react to it, okay?
Okay. I'm ready.
Gathered to celebrate the joyous news that the Messiah died and rose from the grave for the salvation of mankind. This is the central fact of our faith and the reason why Easter is our most sacred holiday. But at the same time, a cult that was invented mere decades ago and which opposes everything Christianity stands for was holding its own observances on Sunday in a deliberate attempt to mock the very idea of Easter. They celebrated something called Transgender Day of Visibility. Joe Biden, who claims to be a Catholic, ushered in the festivities with a presidential proclamation that can only be described as not only blasphemous, but also completely counterfactual. It's not overstating things to say that this proclamation document underscores once again that the Biden administration is the single most radically anti-Christian regime in American history. And it's not even close, actually. In the proclamation, Biden describes so-called transgender Americans as, quote, part of the fabric of our nation. He accuses millions of Americans of being, quote, hateful for supporting laws that ban the castration, sterilization, and mutilation of children, saying that these Americans seek to, quote, target and terrify transgender kids and their families. And he claims that there's a, quote, epidemic of violence against people identifying as trans, without mentioning that this violence almost exclusively relates to domestic incidents, prostitution, drugs. He also fails to qualify this statement with the fact that trans-identified Americans are murdered at a lower rate than the general population. Of course, nowhere in devout Catholic, quote unquote, Joe Biden's proclamation is there an attempt to explain how the concept of transgenderism is compatible in any way with Catholicism. He doesn't grapple with how a Christian can ascribe to modern gender theory while also accepting what we're clearly told in the first chapter of Genesis. Male and female, he created them. There's no way to grapple with this. These views are diametrically opposed. One can either believe in transgenderism or they can believe in Christianity, not both. Just as one can either believe in transgenderism or they can believe in biology, not both. And on both counts, Biden chooses, of course, transgenderism. And coming from the same alleged Catholic who pushes the mass murder of the unborn, that's not exactly surprising. But this decision to issue this blasphemous proclamation on Easter, it was so unbelievable. It's so unprecedented in modern politics that a lot of people wondered if it was real. I was one of them. And I saw it on social media. I had to go check the White House website myself. And I found that, indeed, it was real. And precisely because it's real, because it's easily verifiable and so damaging to the Biden administration and at the same time, because of that, so-called fact checkers instinctively jumped into action to tell us not to believe our lying eyes. And there are many examples of this, so I'll just pick one. Here's the headline from Reuters. Quote, fact check. Transgender Day of Visibility falls annually on March 31st, not always at Easter. And then here's the spin. Quote, International Transgender Day of Visibility takes place annually on March 31st to celebrate transgender and gender nonconforming individuals. It was not designed intentionally to fall on Easter Sunday, as claimed by some online accounts. Transgender Day of Visibility has been celebrated on the same date, March 31st, for years. The date of Easter changes each year. Now, the point of fact checks like this, of course, is to censor posts on social media platforms like Facebook by labeling information as misinformation. And they do this every time, not by debunking a claim, but rather by intentionally confusing an issue or by debunking a claim that nobody's actually making. Nobody made the claim that that Transgender Day of Visibility and Easter always fall on the same day. No one has said that. But that's the claim they debunk. And we see this kind of thing again and again. It's like when PolitiFact said that it was false to claim that AOC was photographed crying in front of an empty parking lot because in reality, they said it was an empty road. Now, they know what people are reacting to. They know what the point is. They know what we're actually saying. And instead of talking about that, they pick some phony misconception related to the episode in order to rate it all as false. Now, the problem with this excuse in this case is that, and this should go without saying, is that Joe Biden did not have to issue any proclamation recognizing the so-called Transgender Day of Visibility. Like what the defenders are saying basically is that, well, Biden can't help that they fell on the same day. It's not his fault. And you're right, he can't. But he can help that he issued a proclamation about it. You don't have to do that. Even Barack Obama never did that, despite the fact that this holiday was invented a year after Obama took office. So that is what people are responding to. Now, of course, no president should recognize any transgender day, regardless of what date it falls on. But if you have any respect at all for the holiest day on the Christian calendar, then you would at least skip the proclamation this year. That's the point. Reuters knows that, and they dodge it on purpose. There was no need to issue this proclamation except for the sole and express purpose of mocking Christians. Secondly, it's not like the Democrats just begrudgingly nodded towards Trans Day because they felt like they had to. Okay, this wasn't a perfunctory checking of boxes. They went out of their way to celebrate the occasion. It wasn't just some staffer in the White House.
What are your thoughts on that?
So my theory is the reason why Matt Walsh doesn't take the stick out of his ass is because if he did, a man's dick would immediately go in after. Somebody needs to go into that man's phone and post his internet history because I am certain it is full of gay and trans porn. That is what I can tell you. He is stuck on us. Why did he create that documentary? That like segment was filled with so many lies. I don't even know where to begin. But what I do know is what he's attempting to do there is a lazy retcon for his dumb followers who definitely thought that April 31st, is that the day? April 31st, that Trans Day of Visibility and Easter fall on the same day every year. That's what they thought. He's trying to do cleanup for them, and he's doing it poorly. You guys are fucking stupid. That's all I got to say about the matter. He just needs to lay off and give it a rest. Like, it's just so obviously hateful and bigoted. Like, I don't even know what to tell you. There's no excuse for the way that they reacted. It was out of stupidity, and I will take no other explanation.
So, to be fair, his search history of trans porn is for research purposes only. Okay. So,
yes. For his documentary.
But Biden has issued a proclamation every year he's been president. Why would he suddenly just skip this, even if it did fall on the same day as Easter? Like, it's not an insult to Christians whatsoever. And that's coming from the opinion of someone who is a theocrat fascist so who's definitely in the minority in this country, and who blatantly hates trans people in the LGBTQ community. So that is the only reason why he thinks that Biden should have not issued a proclamation. There's no other reason. And I think it's just clickbait too. Like, do you think he actually believes half the shit that he says?
No, he's a fucking grifter. And on top of that, if the Pope is out here hanging out with trans women, why can't Biden say Happy Trans Day of Visibility?
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about, sir? Like, Christianity to me isn't a religion of hate, but there's a lot of hateful people in it. And so he's one of those people that I think is perpetuating hate, and he needs to make like his hairline and recede.
As they say, there's no love like Christian hate.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, it's surprising that people try to come for us so hard, and then when we say anything back, all of a sudden we're the bad guys. Like, we were all minding our business. You can have Easter, and we can have Trans Day of Visibility, and we can have both. There's plenty of Christian transgender people. It's not like we don't want to be Christian. It's that when we try, people kick us out. So we had to go do our own thing. Otherwise, we'd be totally normal, well-adjusted people in society. Like, come on.
So he was not the only one who got riled up over sharing the same day as TDOV. So next, I'm going to play you a clip of everyone's favorite narrow-eyed fuck, Charlie Kirk. So give me 1 second here. I'm going to share my screen again. So this clip comes from Media Matters.
I see it.
Okay, great. So let's hit play.
What does being trans even mean? Is that even a real thing? It means you need therapy. And I have compassion for you. Some people say, oh, Charlie, it's too mean-spirited, all of this. Hold on a second. Time out. You know what's mean-spirited? Erasing womanhood. Acting as if XX chromosomes mean nothing and some freak with XY chromosomes can suddenly become a woman. You got to draw a line. Distinctions and order is what keeps civilization alive. Distinctions and order. And I hate to say this. It is women that are the ones that are pushing for this politically. There are some groups, I know many of you there's some remnants out there, there's some small feminist groups, but it is the leading feminist organizations in the country that are either silent or complicit in pushing this. Because feminism was never about advancing female rights. Feminism was about hating men. And what better way to hate men than to take young boys and chop off their parts? So many feminists are on board for this entire project. And the way the way that some feminists look at it, they say, more women are joining our ranks. They just used to be called men. I know that's really sick, and I wish it was just about money. And yes, Pfizer, all these companies are going to make a ton of money, but this is ideological at its core. It's ideological. And it's no mistake that it happened on the high holy day. It's a spiritual war. And Christians don't know how to react to this. We must react politically. We must ban trans-affirming care the entire country. Donald Trump needs to run on this issue. It is a 60, 70, 80% issue. He's already kind of teased this out. Something that I'm going to pitch his team. I want to try to get Donald Trump in a room for 1 hour. I'll put it together. We'll pay for it. I'll get Dr. Miriam Grossman. I'll get Abigail Shire. I'll get James Lindsay. I'll get Aaron Friday. And just for 1 hour, I think Donald Trump really needs to get to understand how graphic this is. And I think he gets it. But many adults, parents I talk to, they say, what do you mean? You mean like, they're dressing differently? They're getting mastectomies. Do you understand what that is? That means they take every part out. And they're 13 years old. Not to mention the hormones and the testosterone, the breast removal, and the puberty blockers that other countries don't do. Hope you had a great Easter. Trans Visibility Day will be canceled if Donald Trump wins in November.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of anger. Also, that same weird Nazi part on his head. Are those guys just like losing hair in that corner of their heads? Like, I don't understand why both of them have that, but it is definitely a sign. I want to point out a couple of things. One, if the GOP should be trusted with women's rights, if that is the case, and we do trust them, we're going to end up living like the fucking Taliban. I mean, just this morning, I was reading a story about a 12-year-old girl who was raped outside of her home and forced to give birth. And now she's going to middle school and changing her baby's diapers. That is the doing of policies that allegedly are better for women than whatever is going on with the transgender agenda. We are just people trying to live our lives and keep it moving. I don't want any special attention. I don't want to be politicized. I just want to be happy and live and love and do my thing without people constantly demonizing me. That's number one. Number two, for all the talk about surgery for minors, first of all, extremely rare. He said mastectomies. I'm surprised he was able to pronounce that correctly. He said mastectomies. For every one mastectomy that is performed on an underage female minor, there are 17 to 20 boob jobs that are performed on minors. So if we're interested in actually saving the children and protecting them from getting surgeries, then we should ban surgeries for all children across the board. But of course, we won't do that because these perverts are interested in making girls more sexual, not less, as is the case with mastectomies. And by the way, according to Reuters, it's not like there are thousands of them. There were maybe 200, 300 nationwide. That's like what? 2 or 3 per state. That's extremely rare, but most people just do not get surgery, period. So all of this stuff buffered by lies, I won't have it.
First off, what I want to say is why we're such a pro Dylan podcast. She's the GOAT. She literally broke all of these men's brains. Like, they are so hung up on this issue. And, I think part of it is we're the easiest group to pick on, for sure. But I think Dylan had a big part of that, and how out there she was and how much attention she gathered over such a short amount of time. And they fucking hate her. They hate her so much. So Dylan breaking all of their brains, forever the GOAT. Now, more specifically to Charlie, like, you'll never hear them talk about gender affirming care for cisgender children because it doesn't fit into their narrative. Like you said, when you do the comparison, it's not even close. So, he's also one of these ultra MAGA guys, right? And he is the embodiment of what Project 2025 is. And we should probably do a deeper dive into this on a future podcast. But if Trump gets elected and they get this wish list, it is not looking good for the trans community or women in America. And that's what these theocratic fascists want. They want total control. And that's what it's about. So I don't think it's definitely about hating trans people, but it goes a lot deeper than that. And it's about controlling what people do with their bodies.
I fully agree. And I see a lot of concerning signs of frustration. I think a lot of the frustration is economic in nature. Some of it is social, and people are looking for a scapegoat. And so they found a few. It starts with us, then they attack immigrants, then they attack women. Ultimately, everybody loses for one specific group to stay in power. And that's not the best way for us to do things. There is a better way forward. And that way is with protecting the liberation and the freedom of all people as individuals.
Great. So that leads me into the next story that I wanted to cover, which is Biden is down big in swing states to Trump. So, got this article from New York Times. I will read it to you. Okay, so this article is from Nate Cohn. Former President Trump still leads President Biden in the battleground states likeliest to decide the presidency, according to polls from the Wall Street Journal in 7 key states. Mr. Trump held a narrow lead in 6 of them: Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania. Biden led in Wisconsin. The findings echo other recent surveys, including a series of New York Times Siena College polls in 6 battleground states last October. Over the last 5 months, Trump has led nearly every poll in Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, and North Carolina, states that would give Mr. Trump more than the 270 electoral votes needed to win. So it is not looking good for Biden in these swing states. And my prediction, if Biden does make it to the election, I don't think he's going to win. I think Trump is going to win.
I have some hope for Biden still. So I think most of the unfavorable ratings right now is coming from a lack of action on Palestine. Obviously, that's a big issue that is upsetting a lot of people. And I think if he were aggressive in supporting Palestinian people and the Gazans specifically, I think he would win favor. But it's starting to become too little too late. And I could see the administration moving in the right direction, but it's just not fast enough. Because the fact of the matter is, our economy is faring better than many economies in the world after COVID because of him. We had the infrastructure bill that was passed that gave trillions of dollars back to the economy. He passed the CHIPS Act. Stocks and bonds and all of those things. As somebody who works in the financial world, things are going pretty well. Whereas when we were experiencing Trump, there was massive division in this country. There was massive crime in this country. The crime under Trump is worse than the crime under Biden. I just saw a stat about that recently. And then that's when we plunged into the pandemic, and he handled that poorly as well. Plus, I would wake up every day and think, oh my God, what sort of battle is he going to start with Iran or Libya or whatever country? So we are faring much better under the Biden administration than we are with the Trump administration. And people need to wake up and vote, because ultimately you're choosing one or the other. Hate to be the person that says that. It is the truth. You are choosing one or the other. And if you're transgender in this country, you have to think really carefully about which pick that you want to make, because one option is better than the other. And part of being an adult is choosing the best out of shitty options.
Yeah, Biden has done a lot for us. So, like you mentioned, the CHIPS Act, Inflation Reduction Act, but stocks that are an all-time high, Main Street and Wall Street are 2 different beasts, and there are a lot of people out there who still can't afford groceries every week, and people who are skipping meals. So there's still a great divide going on in our economic recovery. Like inflation, yes, we are doing better than a lot of countries out there, but it's still bad. And I think that's one of the things that is playing into the unfavorability that's perceived for Biden. But I agree with you with action on Palestine. I think he can turn things around if he does take action. It seems like he has been the president of inaction, which most of the time I would say is pretty good, but not in these crisis situations like Israel and Palestine, and the border crisis and all these other things that are affecting Americans greatly. So, like, he has done a lot, but I still think the perception is that he's the president of inaction. And all his numbers reflect that. So they mentioned this on Breaking Points. Crystal and Saga were talking about this today, how all his favorability numbers have dropped over the past year or since the start of his presidency. And there it's not good. Like, they have been large drops. That story mentioned one of the swing states, Arizona. What are you seeing on the ground there? Because I know Massachusetts, like, we know who we're voting for, but what is Arizona like?
I'm seeing exactly what you're saying. I think that, Republican voters are going to vote for Trump. I'm seeing people who are Democrats not being enthusiastic about Biden for some of the reasons that we mentioned. But you're right. I mean, there are big economic issues in this country that we need a fundamental change in paradigm to fix. Um, my question to everybody who's listening to this is, AI is about to come over here and wipe out a lot of jobs. It's already happening right now. There's all sorts of reports about people in India, thousands of people in India being replaced by AI right now. So I want everybody to think carefully and think about, who would you rather have in office when that really starts to go down? Who's going to have your interests at heart? Because my heart goes out to everybody who is struggling economically, but it's because our system is unfair, and we need to participate and really push for changes within the system in order to make it fair. What we can't do is not participate and hope for a revolution, because if you want a revolution, just look at the last 5 or 6 that we've experienced in history. We had a revolution in Egypt. We had a revolution in Cuba. We had a revolution in Iran. There was a revolution in Afghanistan. Tell me, which of those revolutions ended with the country being better off than it was prior? If you can find something like that, I will pay you. What I think we could do right now is all of us together demand that there is some sort of action for UBI. We could demand that there's some sort of action for universal health care. But the way that we're going about doing things right now is ineffective. And quite frankly, being that I am from a third world country, a third world Muslim country that is extremely corrupt, I will tell you, we as Americans do not know how good we have it. What we're doing right now, we're taking for granted. Democracy cannot be taken for granted. And we're this close to losing it. And I think Donald Trump is an existential threat.
I agree. We need to get out there and vote. That's really the only thing we can do from prevent that from happening, because it's not going to be pretty. I guarantee 100% it is not going to be pretty, especially if they get their wish list with Project 2025.
Yeah.
One of the issues is that the main goal of Congress is to get reelected. So they are 100% first and foremost going to be making decisions that involve self-interest. So that's one of the fundamental things that we need to change. Like, they get elected and then they go right back to fundraising, and the cycle never stops. So, I don't know how we fix that, but that's one of the things that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, I fully agree.
Okay. So, do we want to get into our main segment now?
Absolutely. Let's go in.
Okay. So, Nelia, the NFL draft is coming up the end of April. So, I thought it would be a fun idea if we did a DL draft. So, what the DL draft is we will be drafting men that we think would be on the most or who would be the most DL. So this could be specific people, personas, groups of people, and we will do 10 picks. Since I came up with this segment, I want you to flip the coin. So pull up your phone, flip us a digital coin to see who gets the first pick in the draft.
Okay, heads or tails?
I am calling heads.
Okay, let's see. Flip it. It is heads. You first.
Yeah. Thank God. Because I feel like you would have picked this one.
Okay.
So, because we've talked about him before.
Okay.
So, the number one pick in the 2024 DL draft, Adam 22.
Oh my God. Yes. And I'm happy to have him. I love Adam's podcast. I think he's cute. I like everything he talks about. And he's flirting with it. He's like, I mean, I know he's into the T girls. I just can tell. I know he is. And his wife probably
I
likes
can
it
see
too.
it in his eyes.
Yes. Yes. Wasn't he the guy that did the debate with all the trans women?
Yes. And the way he was looking at Cassidy when he had her and her fiance on the podcast, I think it was like sometime in February. Like, he was so curious. So curious. I think he also did his first gay scene recently.
He posted that on April 1st. So
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know if it was really if it was real, but I wouldn't put it past him either. He gives me full bi energy. The couple gives me bi couple energy for sure. All of them. Both of them.
Yeah, and I mean, he's down with freaky shit. Like, he watches his wife get fucked.
Yeah.
So that's my number one pick, Adam 22. I know it's in his search history. I just know it. Like, I would bet you multiple Bitcoins on it. That's how confident I am.
Yeah. I agree with that. And I don't think he's particularly hiding it. I think he's waiting for the right moment to monetize.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Who do you think he would do a scene with?
Like a trans scene?
Yeah.
Honestly, I gagged at that moment when he had all the trans girls on the debate, and he looks at Elena Genevieve, and he goes, I could, I wouldn't have been able to tell. Like, it was just like so gaggy, and all the other girls in the room were so mad, and she's obviously so beautiful, and I was like, girl, you better get that. She was probably like, okay.
So, okay, so that's who we think he would be doing a scene with first?
I think so. I think she's a perfect person, but I don't know. There's so many beautiful trans girls out there.
That's true. It's definitely not slim pickings.
Yeah.
So, all right, second pick in the DL draft. Who you got?
Okay. So I am going to nominate the least conspicuous gay that I know on the internet and in celebrity hood, and that is Shawn Mendes. I am going to draft him on the team and nominate him as the pass around party bottom because, girl, he has a good boy tattoo, like on his. I think is it on his arm or on his chest or something. I'm like, my God, That's just not something a straight man would have. And I've seen pictures of him and his friends recently. I'm like, girl, come out. We're ready to have you now.
It's giving bottom energy.
Totally.
Okay, I'll have to look at this picture of his good boy tattoo. Okay, second pick in the DL draft, Shawn Mendes.
Yes.
Now, this one is my personal favorite. With the third pick in the DL draft, I am going Finance Bros.
Yeah. There's a lot of them.
So, most recently, that's who I had a few dates with a finance bro, and historically, that category, I've done well with dating. So they are definitely not shy about being seen out and about with trans women. But just as long as they're in a separate neighborhood from their office.
Yeah.
So yeah, finance bros. That's my second pick, third pick overall.
Okay. Well, if we're doing categories, then I am going to nominate military DLs.
Knew
Military
it.
DLs are a classic in the gay and trans community. They are always
Mhm.
down for a secret rendezvous. They are hyper masculine, so they eat up the girls. They are very, very passionate people, sometimes to the point where they might beat you up, but if there's any short of that, whatever. And you could have them eaten out of your hand if you're the right type of girl, and they're sweet. I like them. Um, they're very fun, and I'm about it. I like my military boys.
That is a solid pick. Solid pick with the military bros. I'm surprised they weren't drafted higher. Cause that really is a good pick.
Well, again, some of these dudes are PTSD, beating the girls up. I'm like, girl, I don't have time for all that stuff. The problem with the military bros also broke. A lot of them are broke, and the girls are not about that. And then with the finance bros, I think that they are more insecure about like owning the fact that they're with a trans woman. I feel like military guys sometimes they'll like so many of them are like, don't tread on me, that I think a good amount of them are like, you know what, this is my girl and what are you gonna do about it, and I really like that attitude. I've had some success with finance bros, but most of them have been abject failures. Military bros I've had a lot of success with.
Yeah, I can see that don't tread on me type of attitude. Like they are often the baddest motherfucker in the room.
Yeah.
So no one's gonna be fucking with them. So I can see that.
Can I just tell you a quick
Okay.
story about this?
Yes, tell me.
So
Tell us the tea.
yeah, there may or may not be one in my life. And there have been plenty of times, a couple of times I gotten serious with that type of guy. But one time we were debating whether it's gay to like trans women. And again, everybody's going to kill me, but it depends on how they look. That's what it comes down to for me. So we were going back and forth about that. And I'm trying to checkmate him. I'm like, no, you're bi. You're not like, whatever. And I go, um, I go, well, you're into femboys though too, right? Which a lot of those guys are. And he goes, listen, if I like them, they're feminine and therefore it's straight. I was like, okay, sir. So I was equal parts turned on, equal parts rolling my eyes, like they're a hoot.
Oh my god. Yeah, there's like 5-10% gay.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
it's
just a little.
Yeah, it just depends. I'm like, well, what's the percentage? What's the femboy to trans woman ratio? What type of trans women, are you liking? You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of variables at play. Like, if you like Carmen Carrera and that type of girl, it's a little bit different than some other girls.
Yeah, the crooked tooth on Grinder compared to you, right? So, yes,
Yeah.
I agree. Okay, fifth pick in the DL draft. I am going baseball players.
Oh.
So I have not personally been with a baseball player, but the amount of stories that I have heard about how freaky these men are, like, it solidifies that they're top 5 draft pick out there.
I
For
love
DL.
that. I love that. And it's a little bit safer for them, probably. Like, I feel like NFL players and basketball players, like, they have too much to lose, being seen with us, even though they do like us. They
Mm-hmm.
just threaten people harder when, there's NDAs and stuff like that involved. But baseball players, like, they could get outed and it's like, all right, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, depending on what league that they're in.
I heard from another girl that there was this pitcher that she was with, and he asked her to dress him up in her underwear, role play, the whole nine. And he was definitely not shy about it. He asked this multiple times. So I'm thinking maybe closeted trans girl.
Uh, totally. Or at least AGPs. Shout out to my AGP sisters. I love you guys. Little eggs trying to hatch out the thing. They love to be mommy's little sissy, some of these boys, and I don't know what to
Mm-hmm.
do with it other than just be like, okay, great. Great. It's just,
So
I don't know what to do. It's so strange.
yeah, I can't do it. Not for me. Not for me. If it is for
Honestly,
you,
it's interesting. It's interesting because I've never tied my gender identity with my sexuality. Those two things have none of this turns me on, or being in this turns me on. It's literally just how I look right now is how I feel. That's
mm-hmm.
it.
Yeah, I feel like I'm just so much more comfortable. Like just simple tasks, going to the grocery store, going to get gas, going to Costco. Like I am so much more comfortable in life now.
Yeah.
But okay, that was the fifth pick, baseball players. So Nalia, what is your number 6 pick in the DL draft?
Okay. I want to Speaking of AGP and trans women, I would like to officially invite Michael Jackson onto the team because baby is given woman. We have long black hair, fair skin, rosy cheeks, red lips. She's one of us, and it wasn't her time, it wasn't her place, but I think had time just went on. I mean, she had a less clockable voice than me.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, it's given brick voice. Michael Jackson was given a woman, honey. So bring her on. DL draft.
We love you, Michael. All right,
Michelle.
Michelle, RIP. Okay, so number 7 pick, I'm going Eddie Murphy.
That's a real Eddie. She is bad. Have you heard about what Eddie did with trans women back in the 90s?
Oh, he used to frequent the corners, right? Those.
He
Tell me a story.
Not only did he frequent the corners, he got caught taking home a transgender prostitute, and it was on like real newspapers. It was on like the New York Times or something really big. And when he got caught, he told the reporters, that, wow, it sucks being a good person. I was just giving this lady a ride. It was 4 a.m. Like, absolutely crazy. And this is documented in actual newspapers. And somehow, magically, I don't know if it was like a year later, the trans woman that he was with ended up dying mysteriously. So, yeah, really, really weird. But that one is a chaser, has been a chaser, has been caught chasing, and it's just funny.
Chaser and on his Bill and Hillary shit. Very interesting.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, so we're at the number 8 pick. So we're coming to rounding out our top 10. Who do you
Okay.
have as the 8th pick in the DL draft?
My 8th pick is another Michael. It is Michael B. Jordan, just because I want it so bad. I want it so bad. He is so good looking and just perfect smile, perfect personality. But, he was deeply, deeply in love with Lori Harvey. So I know for a fact that he likes women. How could you not be in love with her? Whatever, but I just want it for us and for the culture. So Michael B. Jordan, because I want it.
Yes, please come over to our side, Michael. We would invite you with open arms. That would be.
I can see him with the
great.
T-girl. I can see him with the T-girl.
Yeah, that would be really great for the culture. That's on the wish list. Let's hope. Okay. So this is my final pick in the DL draft. And I'm glad you did not take this one yet, because this has been very fruitful for me. Gym Bros.
Oh, God. Classic. What a good one. I can't believe I didn't even think of that one.
Gym Bros are such a classic. Such a classic. And you would be surprised the amount of men that I've seen from my gym on Grindr, or I've matched with them on other apps. Because my gym has multiple locations. I go to multiple of them. They're out there, let me tell you. They are out there. And they're also very sweet. Like you would think that gym bros are just D-bags. But being a gym bro takes a lot of effort and perseverance. And I think there's a little bit of a culture of honor in there too. Because it takes a lot of discipline. So I've always had great experiences with the gym bros. Super nice, great bodies. So that is my pick there.
You lost me at honor. I'm not sure if you're living on Venus or Mars, but I do love that for you. And I love me some gym bros. However, discipline, yes, and they are nice to me. I will give them that. But I was like, honor? I don't know about honor. They're always trying to sell you some supplements. They're trying to sell me testosterone. I'm like, girl, I'm trying not to be on that. Hello. My last draft is going to be Uber drivers, because not only do they hit on me every time I'm in one, but they also clock me. And I'm like, well, y'all must be a part of the community since you guys are so obsessed with clocking me. They'll clock me and then hit on me. So I'm like, you know what, girls, come on. Come on with. You're doing good. You drive me home. I have an experience with you every time I'm with y'all. So bring the Uber drivers.
Never a dull moment with the Uber drivers.
Never.
Okay. This has probably been my favorite segment so far. I love the draft.
Yeah, full credit to Dani. Genius idea. It's, April's coming to a close, as you said. Is it? I don't pay attention to sports. Did you say the draft has to be done by the end of April?
So it's scheduled like the second to last week of April, I think, the NFL draft. So I thought this was perfect timing. to roll out our 10 picks over the next few weeks in clips. Obviously, you'll hear them if you listen to the pod. But please let us know who you would include in the DL draft. Very curious to see who we missed.
Yes. Okay. That brings us to our next segment, which are questions from online. So we got a couple of good ones, and I'm excited to share them with you. Some of them are advice, and some of them are just unhinged and life things. So we're going to start off with something a little bit more serious, and then we'll ease into, things that are funnier.
Okay.
So I'm going to read one to you. So I live in a very transphobic country. Transgender people face a lot of discrimination and hatred from society. They're disowned by their families and they don't get normal employment. Most of them have to do either sex work or are begging to earn their livelihood. I have a lot of respect for trans people. Despite the hardships, they have the guts to be themselves. I can't be like them because I'm a coward. I don't want to lose my family. I'm afraid of uncertainties and discrimination. But my gender dysphoria is killing me, and I'm not able to focus on my studies. The question is, how do I get rid of gender dysphoria without transitioning?
Oh man, this one's deep. So, well, first, my heart goes out to this person. That's a terrible situation to be in. So they're a student. I hope that, in some way, they're able to get a student visa and go to, a European country or come to America. Fuck, we do not understand how good we have it here. We seriously don't. I felt like I was a coward about it for the longest time. Everything that this person has said, I have felt that. I have been there. But the difference is I'm in America. But my advice is don't try and bury your gender dysphoria because it's just going to keep coming back up and it's not going to go away. It's not going to go away. And it's really painful. So you need to make the decision. Do you want to feel that pain until your last breath? Very dark and dim, but that's the scenario. Or do you want to own your truth and transition? And for where this person lives, that's only something that they can answer. But my advice would be do not ignore your gender dysphoria because it's going to haunt you if you don't address it. And my second piece of advice would be to try and get out of the country on a student visa. So you have more of an opportunity to explore this and honor yourself with it. So that's my advice for this person.
I completely agree with what Dani said. I think it's really, really hard just to have gender dysphoria in any country. But for you to be in a country where it is extremely dangerous for trans people to live openly, I also, like Dani, feel very lucky that I do not feel like that. It's not a cakewalk in America, but I'm able to succeed and live a decent life. My advice to you is twofold. When I was going through this, and I think when many trans girls go through this, the idea of being trans is too scary to even deal with. And so what I did to deal with it is I ended up reading The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, which is basically a Buddhist self-help book that is about meditation and living in the present. And living in the present was really, really important because regardless of whether I was transgender in my earlier 20s, that has no bearing on how I perform on my job that day, has no bearing on the relationship that I have with my friends later that day. It has no bearing on anything that I was doing at the moment. And so when you fully immerse yourself in the moment, you don't have to worry about whether you're transgender or not transgender. You're just focusing on what's in front of you right now. And that was really, really helpful. That helps stave off the dysphoria in some ways. The other thing I would do in your situation is I would try to find some refuge in online communities, whether that is playing a video game where I'm a female character, or going on Reddit as my female persona, or any other forums. There's a lot of support online where you can remain anonymous and also be your real self. I found a lot of solace there. And while I was taking those steps to express who I truly was, my brain slowly came up with a plan on how I could leave my home state of Ohio, where I can get a job. And I was able to take one brave step at a time until I was over the finish line. And that's what happens to a lot of transgender people. So to summarize that, be present one day at a time and express your femininity in really safe and anonymous ways until you're able to get yourself out of that situation and be more free.
I think just staying present, that is a great Buddhist philosophy that, we also hear Sam Harris talk about a lot, who we both love. And it's a very difficult thing to do, but it helps you immensely. Like, it is one of the most transformative things that you can do. And I have another book recommendation for this person. So this comes from one of my heroes, Annie Duke. But the book is called Thinking in Bets. And it's how to make decisions in a better way, and a strategy for making decisions. So to your point, how you take little steps that help you along the way. That book helped me take those steps where it made it easier and easier to come out as trans. So yeah, I think that's a great point too for this person, and great advice.
And I wrote down the book you just said so I can read it because I'm always in the market. So thank you for the book recommendation.
Of course.
Okay, so this is just like a friendship question type of thing, but I thought it was funny. What do you do when your friends are working on a project or business that you think is trash? A friend of mine is an up and coming fashion designer coming out with a line of accessories that I don't like, and I think they are poor quality. It's hard because we're good friends and we have pretty much the same circle of friends. I've tried to dance around the issue by never bringing it up, but he started asking direct questions like, I want you to model this piece, and when are you buying this? How do I tell my friend that his products suck without ruining a friendship? P.S. I went through the same thing last year with a friend's mixtape. Okay. Danny, what would you do?
Did this person say what happened with the mixtape?
No.
Okay. So I would first say, think about what happened with the mixtape. Did you tell the person that the mixtape sucked, or did you stay silent? And then what was the outcome of that? I would also see what the field is saying about these handbags and designer clothes. But personally, I feel like honesty is the best policy. So if you're really good friends with this person, you know how they react to bad news. And if they are truly your friend, you should be able to get over this rough moment with them, of telling them that you think that they can improve these styles. I definitely would not say that they suck, but I would say it in a kinder way. That would be my advice. But knowing knowing this person and how they react to things, that can lead you down a path on how to deliver this sad news.
I agree. It is definitely like managing people where like sometimes you can be really blunt and sometimes you have to be gentle. I'm assuming because you are posting this question online that either you have an issue being blunt like that or you're afraid of how this person would react. So I would be very careful, and I'm known, to be a little bit of a sugarcoater sometimes. In this situation, I think I would ask questions to make somebody get the point without having to say something. So I might say, like, oh, yeah, have you ever considered like doing this as a way of making like a light suggestion on ways that I could, you know, see I could do something better. Or I might say, you know what, this isn't really my style, but maybe I'll get one for my nephew, and that way you're kind of communicating that you don't like it, but then you save it with like somebody else does, girl, I guess. Or I would tell them like, you know, girl, I don't got money for extra clothes or something like that. But I would definitely try to hint gently with questions, because when somebody is doing something that personal, like I'm trying to think about if one of my friends told me that my video sucked, I would be like, first of all, no, they don't. And second of all, who was fucking asking you? That's how I would react. So it's like, it's a moot point at that point, even if I need the advice. So that's what I would do in that situation.
See, like, I'm pretty open to constructive criticism. Um, so, like, I would welcome that. So, I think it's all about how you deliver it. That's going to be one of the most important things. Um, Also, this person said that they're in, like, all their friends are in the same friend group. If you're scared about playing off this scenario with one of your friends, role play with ChatGPT, and you can like role play different scenarios and how it would go. I feel like that's the best option if you're afraid to talk to your friends about this.
I also want to just point out the temperament difference between Dani and myself. Dani was clearly like a jock in high school and college, is used to taking tough ass advice. I was a fucking theater kid. So don't come at me crazy. I am thin skinned and I'll get mad, and I am a diva. So it is so funny how we don't deviate from that, because that's exactly what I was expect out of you to say. And of course I am the way that I am because I've been in theater and music. I'm used to being a diva. So I think that's funny. Okay. I'm going to move on to the next question. Last question.
Okay.
We still recording? Okay, yes, we're good. This one's a little bit of a longer one, okay?
Okay.
So this is from lesbians. I'm in a relationship with a wonderful woman. We've been dating for 3 months, and as most lesbian relationships go, we're already completely in love. We live about 90 miles away from each other, but we do try to see each other every weekend. And when we are not in each other's faces, we're constantly texting and calling. We have not gone a day without talking on the phone for at least an hour. We've said, I love you. We've started planning our future together. Because of different commitments and responsibilities, we would not be able to live in the same city or together for at least a couple of years. This is helpful because it helps us to slow down and live in the moment. A few days ago, my lover told me that she felt like we were too obsessed and codependent. She says this because of the amount of time we spend together talking on the phone. I think at the beginning of every relationship, you try to nest and talk to that person all the time. It's the honeymoon phase and it doesn't last forever. But even if it does, is it horrible that you're actually in love with somebody that you're with and you're enjoying their company? She says that she keeps on questioning whether this is a healthy relationship. All the while, she keeps making future plans for us and making sure we have dates set for the next time we see each other, and calling and texting all the time. It plays into my hopeless romantic ideals, but in no way do I expect to continue at this pace. Is it okay to be this obsessed with each other this early, or should we be trying to take steps to slow down?
This is like quintessential U-Haul lesbian.
Yes.
So I would mirror your lover in this situation. Bring the same energy that they are. And if you truly do love this person and them flip flopping on them saying that they need space and need to slow down and then planning the future, you should be able to bring up to them that it makes you uncomfortable and you don't know where this is going and you need some certainty. As a fellow hopeless romantic, and someone who has an anxious attachment style, I would say that being honest and upfront with someone is probably going to be the best way to lead this and to play out this situation, because you know exactly where you stand with this person. And it may be a difficult conversation, but if you're truly in love with someone, this won't be the last difficult situation, right? So get used to it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I am somebody who does get a little bit carried away with how into somebody I am and things like that. So I totally understand the feeling of wanting to get whisked away. I'm probably like, you know, whatever the normal attachment style, probably that. But if I had to choose an unhealthy one, it would definitely be avoidant. And when people pursue me and it's going fast, a lot of times I do start to push back a little bit, not because I think that the connection isn't good, but because it scares me that I'm in another situation where I'm going to get hurt emotionally. I mean, I do that all the time. And so I would say keep on having fun. Just don't get too carried away. Like if you're at a 90-day benchmark, um, you know, saying I love you and all that stuff, little weird, right? So let the relationship pace normally, enjoy it for what it is, have fun, be in the moment, but just keep in mind like healthy timelines for being with somebody. Like dating for a year is like a milestone for people, and then they live together, and then after a few years of living together they share some assets or whatever, and then people get married. Like maybe just keep going and see what happens with these milestones, and that'll help you prioritize what's actually happening.
I think that is great advice for our U-Haul lesbians here.
We love you, lesbians. If I was able to date women and be into it, I so would. I would love just a woman's love. Just sounds like so beautiful and soft and nice. I can't deal with these men, man. I cannot deal with them. They drive me crazy, but I love them. I do. You know. In the future, we're gonna have an episode about men, and I got a lot of thoughts.
Oh, that will be a juicy episode.
Yes. Okay. So on that note, it's been a lovely podcast. Dani, where can everybody find you on the internet?
So you can find me at Dani Fermanek, all my socials, just my name. And you can also find us collectively at T Girls Pod. So that's TEA.girls.pod. And we're that on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. We're not on Twitter yet. But find us there. Subscribe to us on Spotify. We've had a lot of listens over the past few weeks, and the listen to subscriber ratio is not adding up. So please give us that follow, subscribe, give us 5 stars. We would love you for that.
I love that. And you can find me on Tranalytics on both Instagram and TikTok. And you can find me on YouTube, Transgender Insurance. I'm actually really building that up. So would love for you to subscribe there. I have a lot of content. I post every single day about transgender issues from a social standpoint, from a political standpoint. So definitely follow me. Thank you so much for joining the pod. We will see you next week. Bye.